Hi everyone. In this video, we are going to discuss the measurement of mortality using the specific death rate. So in the previous video, we have discussed the measurement of mortality using a crude death rate, and now we have come to something called a specific death rate. So as the name suggests, this is specific to some segment of the population. So instead of the crude where it had all the values, it had taken all the age groups or all the segments of the population together, but in specific death rate we have a specific segment of the population. So coming to the definition of the specific death rate, it is a death rate that is computed for a particular specified section of the population, which is termed as the specific death rate. So we can say specific death rate as the total number of deaths in a specified section of the population in a given period divided by the total population of the specified section in the same period. So we are considering in the denominator the population of a specified section in a particular time period, and the number of deaths in the numerator, there is a number of deaths in this population, in this population that we have taken for the study, which is being multiplied by 1000. Usually we consider the specific death rate in terms of age and sex. That means in case of age and gender is what we take the specific death rate. So coming to the age specific death rate. So in case of age specific death rate, we denote NDX as the number of deaths in the age group X plus N. So suppose that X is 5 and X plus N, suppose the value N takes is 10. So we consider the number of deaths in the age group 5 to 15. Similarly, we can take X to be 0, that is the infants 0 to 1, etc. Like any values can be taken for X and N. And we take NPX to be the total population of the age group X plus N. So X plus N just means that particular age group. So that interval shows age group, that is 20 to 25, 18 to 25, etc. Then the age specific death rate of the age X to X plus N is denoted by NMX, because we are dealing with mortality rate. So we denote mortality, the age specific death rate as mortality rate. That is why in the left hand side we have M. So NMX means that age period is given, that is mortality rate of X plus N, which is equal to the death rate in that age group or the number of deaths in that age group divided by the total population in that age group into 1000. So age specific death rate can also be considered like we can also consider the annual age specific death rate. That is, if n is equal to 1, we know then that NDX or DX to be specific will be X plus 1. So X plus 1 means we are going to consider of people of only 1 year. So only an annual age SDR is considered. So for that we usually denote that annual age SDR to be DX and DX to be the MX and DX to be the number of deaths in the age group X plus 1 and PX to be the total population in the age group X plus 1. Now we are going to consider, here in case of the age specific death rate, there was only one factor, that was the age group, that was X plus N. Now we are going to consider the age specific death rate for females and males. So we are going to divide the total population into two. That is, in the total population there was no, in the beginning there was no classifications or no divisions, but now In the previous one, age specific death rate, we have divided the total population into different age groups and we have classified the population into different age groups. Now we are including one more restriction, that is a male and female. So the age specific death rate for males and females. So coming to the age specific death rate for males, so we consider in the numerator the number of males in the population of the age group x to x plus n. Similarly, ndx or mndx is the number of deaths amongst this population. So we first define the population to be, in case we have to consider the age specific death rate for the males, then we consider the population to be only the males of those age group, and we shall consider the number of deaths in that population, in that trimmed population. Similarly, the age specific death rate for females is also calculated in a similar manner, where the population is trimmed, that is, in the population we only consider the number of females in the population of the specified age group, that is x to x plus n, and we shall consider the number of deaths in that trimmed population or in that new population that we are going to consider, and using which we find the age specific death rate for females. Now coming to this age specific or specific death rate from the CDR, we have a number of good things. That is, when it was CDR, when it was the crude death rate, it was just considering the number of deaths and the total number of population. So there was no classification in case of age or in case of gender. But we know, like in case of death rate, the age matters. If it is an infant, they are more prone to death. If it is an elderly person who is approaching death or who is of senior citizen, then they are also prone to death. So because of which, if we are not considering the age, we may lose a lot of information. So when we come to the specific death rate, it reveals more information about the various segments of the population than CDR, because it divides the total population, the whole population, into different age segments or into two segments as male and female. So it reveals more information based on this various segments of the population when compared to the crude death rate. So as we have already told, the death rate specific to age and sex overcome the drawback of the CDR, where the age and sex was not a factor. Okay. So because of this reason, it is a widely applicable type of death rate, because we need the death rate not just in a crude value, but usually the death rate or the death values is required in this segments or in this specific type. So it is of wide applicability, and also it supplies essential components for the calculation of the net reproduction rate and the construction of life tables, which we shall discuss in the coming videos. Now, as always, we know the crude death rate has some merits and it had some demerits. Those demerits have been met in this specific death rate, and that has become the merits of the specific death rate. Similarly, we also have some demerits for the specific death rate. So here are some demerits of the specific death rate. So one of which is that specific death rate cannot be used for the comparison of the mortality conditions of two different regions. We can use specific death rate to compare the mortality rate between of the same region of the female and male, or in the same region for the different age groups. But we cannot compare using this SDR the mortality conditions in two different regions. So that is a drawback, which we shall solve in coming death rates, which shall be solved. Also, SDR completely ignores the social, occupational, and the topographical factors. We know the specific death rate only takes into account the age or the sex. Usually, it is the age or the sex. It completely ignores all other factors that could also contribute to the death rate. So, these are the two demerits, and since this specific death rate has caused demerits, so we shall have a better death rate, which we shall discuss on the coming video. I hope this video was useful. Thank you.